Welcome to the first day of the 12 Days of Christmas Watercolor Challenge. I am so excited to have you all here today. I hope you guys are back for another year. If you joined me in the last 2 years, I have been running this challenge, and every day I teach a new watercolor tutorial, usually around the holiday theme, and this year is going to be the same. The only difference is that I am going to be pre-recording all but one tutorial because I have a baby this year and it's just unpredictable to know when he's going to nap. So I will be releasing these tutorials every day from December 1st through the 12th at noon. The only difference will be on day 12, December 12th, I will be there live teaching my absolute favorite class, which is the Dog Portrait Masterclass. So highly recommend being there live if you can make it live on December 12th at 12 p.m. Central Time. If you can't make it, don't worry, it'll be like the rest of these where you'll be able to access the video replay anytime you need. So either way, so excited to have you all here. And so, as you already know, every day comes with a printable outline, free for you to download and print onto your own watercolor paper, or even trace whatever you are able to do. I have a printer where I'm able to print on pretty heavy cardstock paper, so I have it where I lowered the opacity of the outline and printed it straight onto my watercolor paper. And it just makes it so easy to be able to get started with painting right away and not stressing about the sketching. But you can also do a graphite rubbing and then trace your the imprint of the outline onto a watercolor paper. So just want to overview some supplies first before we get started. I have right here, since we're talking about paper, I love to use the 140-pound cold press Arches watercolor paper. It's 100% cotton. It's professional grade paper. When you have that 100% cotton, it's just a really beautiful piece of paper that the paint, just, you'll know the difference when it comes to paper. I think paper is one of the biggest game changers in supplies with the outcome of how your paintings will turn out. So yeah, so anyways, 140-pound Arches cold press watercolor paper, but any watercolor paper for this challenge is going to be perfect. So be sure to just get started with whatever you have. And next, then of course, are brushes. Since I'm working on a 5x7 size, my brushes aren't super big. And one of my all-time favorites is my number 3 pointed round brush from Etcher. I have a whole set of these. And then the other brushes that I actually really enjoy using is this really cheap set. I've used these brushes. This is a brand new set I just broke out for the challenge, but I have used this set of paint brushes for a variety of portrait work and paintings. They are from Amazon. They're super cheap set, very affordable. I just like the way that they have a nice pointed round tip to them. So anything with a pointed round brush, because that way you're able to get nice detail, but also you could paint pretty much everything. And you'll notice when you get a new brush that the paintbrush is really like firm. So to break it, it's just like this like a little bit of glue, or it's not even glue. I don't know. It's almost like a hairspray that they put on there just to protect them for travel and shipping. So you just can break that up. Once you get them wet, it's gonna just make them a lot softer. So anyways, these are all synthetic brushes in a variety of sizes, but for this challenge, you really can get away with a size 3. Ideally, if you have like a size 0 or 1 for really fine liner stuff, and then maybe something a little bit bigger, anywhere from like a 4 to an 8 would be really helpful, all pointed round brushes. Then, of course, you'll need your water. So any type of jar, reusable jar is really great for that. A paper towel, definitely will want a paper towel. And then when it comes to paint, again, just like paper, use whatever you have, but I will be using for these tutorials all but the final day 12. The Dog Portrait Masterclass has its own palette that I'll share. You'll get the whole supplies guide for that too. But for these 11 days holiday paintings, I have this Winsor & Newton professional grade paint. I also love their Cotman set, which is the student grade paints, but the professional are really great. I've always been a huge fan of tube watercolor paints because to me, they go so much farther and last a lot longer. You only need just like a little bit, so I need to actually start putting some of these on my palette. You really only need a little bit, and so I'll just kind of dab a little bit there, and that little bit will go a long way. Super rich color, and it'll last a long time. So once that dries, I'll just continue to reuse it. Definitely will want a red, a green, a yellow ochre, and some browns. So here, I'll just start putting some in my palette here. Sap green. The only bummer about this one set that I have is it doesn't come with a darker green, but when I go to do like this tree, I'll definitely want a darker green, and one of my favorite colors is Payne's Gray, and that is a dark, like grayish blue. So that I'll mix with the green. Sometimes these caps get so tight. Okay, of course I want to move that. And they kind of dry. If you need to, you can run the paint under water, and that'll sometimes loosen them. I'm going to stick this over here, the Payne's Gray that I'll use quite a lot. Let's see. This set comes with a black. I typically do not work with black, so I'm not going to worry about putting that into my palette right now. So right now I have a burnt sienna, a red, a sap green, and the Payne's Gray. Then there's this burnt umber. I'll definitely want that one too, so I'll put that next to my burnt sienna. And then let's see, what else? The blues. So here we have a French ultramarine blue and the Winsor blue. Not very familiar with the Winsor blue, to be honest, so we'll just have fun and try out these. Let me just put the French ultramarine. What I can tell you that when it comes to creating a darker green, that's also a great tip, is just to put some more of like ultramarine blue into the greens and give you another pretty green hue. Cadmium free red, that's gonna lean more orange, even though they claim it's a red. I'll just put it out there on my palette. And let's see, we also have some of these lemon yellows. Not sure if I'll use that one as much, but what I will really use, and I left a spot over here for it, is the yellow ochre. One of my all-time favorite colors, especially if you paint more natural greenery type of stuff. This is a go-to color. All right, there we go. So I pretty much put all colors on here, besides maybe one of the yellows and the one of the blues here. But I think that looks good for those. The other thing that I would recommend getting in your toolbox is the Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White. Not necessary, but it's something that I just have always loved using within my watercolor paintings, especially pet portraits. Is this white paint it's not actually like a paint. I think they consider it more like an ink. So let's say you're doing calligraphy, it's great for that. But when it comes to pet portraits especially, I love the way that they layer on top this, I'll call it paint, but this bleed proof white will layer on top of the watercolor. I think it works so much better than even a white gouache. So we'll use that sporadically within our paintings. And then I'll just put my water back here. I have a pretty Christmas smelling candle going right now, just to kind of get us in the spirit. And I have my coffee. So this is actually in a mug. I can't tip it too far because I don't want to make a big mess. One of the mugs that I created one year with all of my holiday paintings. Super fun. Just broke it out for the holiday season. So I think that overviews everything pretty well. And today, super excited to paint this really pretty tree. All these tutorials will be done within 30 minutes. So I want them super doable because of course we're doing quite a few. 12 days is a lot. The 12th day, the masterclass will definitely be longer than 30 minutes, but all the other days, I'm going to keep them to 30 minutes or less. So they are doable and just fun little breaks in your day. I know the holidays are, even though they're so fun, but they can be kind of stressful, and hoping that you guys will carve out just some time for yourself. A big tip for making the challenge possible and attainable is to print out all the outlines or sketch out all the outlines right away. So then you're ready to go and you don't need to worry about it and you can just get started painting. Let's see. So yeah, if you finish all 12 days of the challenge, you are going to be in the running for winning a free entrance into my online course called Master Watercolor Dog Breeds. And that is almost a $200 value that you'll get for free and access for lifetime into my signature course. So excited about being able to spread the joy of painting with you guys this season. To be able to enter is you do need to paint each one. Ideally, you'll go ahead and share them on your Instagram account and tag me at Windswept Design Studio. I'll have all the details linked below in the description. So you can go ahead and enter, just making it super easy for you guys. Also hoping that if you are also running a business with your watercolor, that maybe this will bring you some more business in the future. So by sharing your work, it's always a big part of running a business. Alrighty, let me just move this so we don't have that harsh shadow there. And I think that looks good. So let's go ahead and get started. First, I'm just going to wet my paintbrush. I'm going to get started with this Transcend size 4 pointed round brush. I can already see that I dripped some water there. I'll just kind of mop it up. Alrighty. So to begin, we are going to use our sap green color. So here I have, as you can see, it's kind of like a Kelly green, pretty bright. And we can get variety of greens simply by mixing some other colors. So let's put some yellow ochre together with our green, and you can see it's going to create an even lighter green. And then a way to get a darker green is to mix the Payne's gray. So here I'll just grab a tiny little bit. If you're working with tubes like I am, the paint coming straight from the tubes is naturally going to be a lot richer. So be very careful with the amount of paint that you're grabbing. So here I have a nice pretty dark green. If you need to, have some scrap paper nearby, and you can always swatch your paint on your extra watercolor paper. All right, so to begin, it's always really great to understand if you're fairly new. Oopsie, we better move the coffee. I almost dipped my paintbrush in the coffee. Okay, so if you're brand new to watercolor, you are going to want to make sure that the understanding that you have to work light to dark. You can't layer light unless you're working with something very opaque like this bleed proof white on top of your dark colors. So what I like to always do is kind of work in the medium range. So here I have my sap green, and if it's feeling too green, I actually might add a little bit of brown into there just to help neutralize that green so it's not so candy green. Okay, so with the pointed tip of my brush, I have kind of equal parts paint to water, and we're just going to start to paint some of these needles. And you can kind of angle your brush in different ways, but either way, what I want to do is just kind of take a stem. So I'm just kind of picking one and flaring it out. And now we don't want to move too far. I'll try and keep my, like this. Maybe I will go ahead and zoom in a little bit farther. There we go. That's gonna make it a lot easier to see. Okay, so yeah, we just want to make sure that we're using kind of the tips of our brush and flaring it out. And I can go back through and add the trunk later, but then until that dries, I want to add a little bit of that Payne's gray to my green. And while it's still wet, I'm just going to drop it in a few places just to give it a little dimension and just kind of let it be free. So here, I'll show you this as this is starting to dry. Now I have a variety of greens, so we are going to do that throughout this whole tree. And the reason why I'm not going to work and do the medium to light green throughout the whole tree right now, right away, is because I just am not confident that I'll get back to it fast enough before it dries. So, and you can also do the same technique by adding in even like some brighter, lighter colors. So as we work our way up this tree, I kind of want it to be kind of some fun, brighter colors. Usually that's what happens when the light hits things, is that we'll have a little bit lighter colors. So I'm just going to do a few. I don't want my water like pooling in the amount of paint that I have to water on my brush, so just a little bit. And we'll just do a few here. I've been loving all the Christmas decor that they keep coming out with every year. Always has like such fun trees. So here I will go ahead and grab a little bit of darker colors now. So here's a little bit of brown, a little bit of the Payne's gray mixed with our green. And we will drop it in. So of course you're going to have some darker pieces underneath the branches and more towards the center. So don't forget the pieces that we just did up top here. Let's add a little bit of yellow to our green here. So it's just kind of a constant play with color, which I really love when it comes to doing things that are natural, like a tree or a flower, so that you just kind of mix your paint together as you go, and it's not going to be like one flat single color. So here we are, just adding a few more of that fun bright color green. And it's okay if you have these branches kind of, or these needles on these branches kind of going in all different directions. Okay, so there we have that batch. How about we add a little bit of a brighter color, even more of that yellow. We'll drop that in here. I kind of like the look of having some of that in there. And now we'll grab our Payne's gray mixed with our green. And I'll drop some of that into the darker areas. And the reason why I'm doing that, I'm dropping it in before it dries, is because it just kind of gives it a nice blend. I'll pull this up closer so you can see it. So it's just kind of smooth the way that the colors are drying and blending together, which is what I really wanted for a more simple look on this watercolor tutorial. All right, working our way down here. Here we go. Benny, my son, is upstairs with his grandpa. So if you hear little baby noises, that's where he is right now. Alrighty. So excited, actually, you guys. I have, this is the first Christmas for him, which is extra special. So very excited for that. All right, so now I'm just playing with that light to medium green, working our way down. This is a tutorial that should be very approachable for anybody who's fairly new to watercolor. So if you are feeling intimidated to even get started, let's let this challenge be something that's fun and allows you to just, you know, have fun and play and explore the paint. That's a big part of learning any type of new art medium or anything you do, really, is that you need to learn how much paint to water and different strokes and techniques. So this challenge is a big thing to hopefully help give you the confidence to get started and just have fun playing. Okay, so now I just grabbed some of that Payne's Gray and I'm going to drop it in some areas here. I actually went pretty far on my lighter green section, farther than I thought I was going to with, but so that's why I'm working a little bit faster than I prefer for teaching wise, but I just don't want it to dry, so I'm hurrying here just to add a little bit of that dimension. Here, I'll just pull this up closer. So it's a little bit tricky here with the lighting. All right, so as you can tell, I left a little bit of a spot there for my trunk. So here I'll grab more of that Kelly green, sap green, and we are all the way down to the bottom here. This little tree is going to be inside of a basket, so that is what we'll paint very soon here. It's not your typical tree, but it's all those cute trees that you probably see online that have these adorable baskets. Okay, I want to add a little bit of yellow into what I just did. It looks like too flat of a green color right now. Sometimes you can dab your paper towel just to get rid of some of the excess water and paint so you can start fresh. That's also a big part of helping to control how much water to paint you have on your brush, is just dabbing your paper towel. Okay, so grabbing some of that Payne's Gray. Actually want to grab a little more water and mix it with our green. All right, we are very close, so I'm going to just drop that in. Alrighty, so super fun, light, airy tree we have right now. And I've been able to do all of that with this nice medium-sized pointed round brush, which is why I absolutely love these brushes. Alrighty. I think from here, let's do this trunk. So I have this color called Burnt Umber, which is just a nice little brown, typical brown color, but I usually don't like to work with colors straight from the tube, so to get that a little bit of a darker grayish brown, I just added just a little titch of Payne's Gray into my Burnt Umber. Alrighty, so let's just go ahead and paint in our trunk. Maybe let's see where we can add some down here. And we want to leave some of those branches coming out in front of it, so that looks more layered and realistic in a way, even though this is more of a light and airy tree. Might add a little bit of brown into those branches, so I just got rid of that paint and water on my brush and picked up a little more of that brown, and I'll just run anywhere you see like some of the outline that you didn't cover with a needle, just use with very little pressure so you have a nice fine line just to help draw almost some of the branches. And it's okay if you have white gaps because this is going to be a more of a light, airy style of painting. All right, I think this would make such a cute card. That's also something that you guys can think about too, and how you want to use your paintings at the end of the challenge. They're all 5x7 size, the outlines are, so you could create them into a card. You could scan them in if you know how to do all that and create, you could actually put it on a mug. I think that would be a super cute way to do it. Either way, if you come up with some really fun ideas, I would love to see them. So here I have my brown, that burnt umber color. And now this basket is going to be a lot lighter. And what I can do now is grab the little bit of, being careful not to grab the green that I now have mixed in my yellow ochre. That does happen. So now I have the yellow and the brown mixed together. So it's creating a really nice wicker color because that's what I'm going for right now. So what I'll do is just fill in this basket, and then once this the base layer is dry for this basket, we'll go back through and add a little bit of texture. Okay, so here I have the beginning layer. And before this piece dries, to show a little dimension into that, let's grab more of our brown. And I'm actually just going to use what I have straight from the tube with this brown. And I need to shadow the area that this present or this gift is sitting in front of this basket. So I'm going to just drop it in while it's still wet and let that dark or that medium brown bloom in there like that. But I want to make sure that I'm still leaving some light color that we had for the first light tan color that I had. And then before even that dries, let's go one shade darker. So taking our brown and adding just a titch of that Payne's gray until you get the dark brown that you like. And I am going to not let it expand quite as much, but I'm just going to run my brush down and around those edges again, where the shadow would be the absolute darkest, which is right here where the gift is, like that. So I'll bring this up here. So see how that bloomed and that blended really, really nicely. And that's a lot easier to do when you have this type of cotton paper. So don't get discouraged if you're using a like a student grade paper. They just don't quite get the bloom effect like a professional grade paper does. All right, so here I have to do the back part of this. So I'm grabbing my brown, and again, I just want to make it darker because it's going to be more of the inside. If you ever feel like you have too much water, then just dab your paper towel. And that's where I am going to just paint that back side, being careful not to touch the top or the front of my basket. And now if you do, just go ahead and get rid of all the paint on your brush and get a nice clean brush. And that's something you can do, is just kind of swipe along and pick it up. That technique is called lifting, actually, so you can lift the paint. Again, that has that's a big benefit to this paper. So I can just go back through and soak up some of that color if I didn't want it to be quite so dark. I think that's something that's really nice about watercolor. I think a lot of people who are not really comfortable with watercolor, don't know it as well, that they don't understand that you can, it is actually a forgiving medium. You just have to know at what point that you can kind of go back through and touch up things. All right, so there's that right there. We'll let that dry. And for right now, we are going to add the color into our tree, like the ornaments, the star, and then our presents at the bottom. And then I also just want to make a little bit of a shadow just to help ground the tree. Okay, so let's make some fun colors for our ornaments. I'm going to start by doing, actually let's start by doing red. And you are welcome to do whatever colors that you wish for your ornaments and your gifts. So I'll just do some red. And all your ornaments could be in the same color family if you wanted, all blues, all reds. Just do it maybe in different shades. Okay, so I'll do one there, one down here. This one is looking to be, this Alzarian Crimson is almost coming across as more pink, which is kind of fun. And one over there. Now I think I'll do more of a bright color. How about this bright yellow? Totally having fun with this. And I'll paint this one. That's a really pretty, that lemon yellow. Do one down here. And I need one more color for my ornaments. So right now I've got this kind of pinky red and that bright yellow. Oh, I'm thinking blue, but I'm not 100% certain. Maybe I might do this orange. Let's see. Let's do the blue. So I have way too much water on my paintbrush right now, I can just feel, so I'm going to get rid of that paint, or that water and paint, and then pick it up again. And drop it in right there. Okay, so I want to have one more blue ornament. I might have covered it up with some needles on my outline, so I will just go ahead and make another one. The nice thing about this blue is that it's a pretty dark color that I can layer it over these branches pretty well. Let's put one up here just to balance it out. And maybe I'll add a third blue, but for right now, that's what I will do. I think what I'll do is pull the blue into a gift. Okay, so I will come on down here and paint this gift. So I'll just start by doing one flat color of this blue. And being careful on where, how heavy and how hard of pressure I'm pushing down. The lighter the pressure, the skinnier the line that I can create. All right. Now I just want to grab a little more blue, less water on my brush, just to help, again, like the basket, and just drop it in down towards the bottom. And actually that might, this will be a good example to try and do some of that lifting. So here I'll hold up the painting. I have a pretty dry brush now. I am just going to soak up some of that paint up top. Like that. And that made a nice dimension, and we can even do that with our blue ornaments if you felt like it got too dark. All right, now for this gift, I think I'm going to bring in more of that red, pinky color. So the same as we did with our blue gift here. Just fill in right there. You don't want too much water. This kind of goes for everything. Unless you're painting a really like mystical sky where you need a big blooming effect, you don't need a whole lot of water. But you also you really need enough water to be able to make sure that you're not getting, you know, a dry brush effect where you're seeing the white paper texture crackle, like the paint crackle over that texture. You want to make sure you have enough to get a smooth, unless you're going for that look. That's helpful if you're creating like a, well, if you're painting a tree or a rock or something that does have texture like that, it's a really great technique to do. So I will just pick some of that back up there. So here I have my two gifts, and I'm going to let those dry. Instead, I'll come on up here to the star, and it's going to be a mix of this really bright color also with the yellow ochre. So let's just grab kind of your medium to really bright yellow and fill that in. And it's gonna be hard because now to see that color reflecting. But now what I'm going to do is grab this yellow ochre. I'll even bring some down here. And I am just going to drop it in to help show some dimension to the star. So you just kind of do it underneath each of these little 5 points. And that created a nice easy dimension there. And if you ever want to make sure if something is dry, you just can touch it and see if anything picks up. Usually watercolor, depending on how much water, of course, that you've used, will dry fairly quickly. Dry enough to where you can work with it again and layer. Okay, so for the bows on our packages, I think I'm just going to use this really pretty Payne's Gray. It's this dark bluish color. And again, you just want it dry enough where your paint's not going to run into the areas that you painted already. So just using the very tip of my brush. And then our little cute bow up top here. Really light pressure, and I'm able to get the tip of my brush like that. And you're welcome to use a different color for the ribbon on this red package, but I am going to use that same dark color just to create a little consistency. And we'll do some over here. All right. So I just want to show quickly, and I'm not going to do a whole lot of dimension adding to these paintings because I want to create them to be light and airy, which is definitely the vibe that I have right now. But let's just say that we want to add, let's say you didn't get something as dark as you would have wanted to. So now for the basket, I just have my medium to dark brown, and it's going to layer really, really nicely. So here we have our handle, and I'll just kind of create a little bit of shadow mark there. And we can also add some down and around. And I'll show you because now it's wet. But that's just a really great way to get dimension. Again, if you need to add some more and get anything darker. I could see almost making the inside of this basket a little bit darker. So I'll just pick up some of that Payne's Gray. Oops. And again, if you make a little oopsie like I did, just grab your clean brush and swipe it around. All right. Watercolor will dry lighter than it appears when it's wet on your paper. And the last little thing that I want to do is create just a little bit of a shadow underneath. And my shadows I love to do with the Payne's Gray, just a really, really light amount, like mostly water, just a tiny little bit of paint. And we are going to start closest to the basket and run down around the gifts and just a little bit farther down. And so while that's still wet, I'm going to grab a little more of the Payne's Gray, and we are going to drop it in kind of right underneath those pieces, and they are going to simply fade and blend, and that creates a nice little shadow that really helps to ground the piece. All right, there we have our very first day of the 12 Days of Christmas Watercolor Challenge of this tree in a basket, and I can't wait to see your guys' paintings throughout this challenge. And you can go ahead, every time you finish a painting, post it on your social media account, specifically Instagram, and tag me at Windswept Design Studio so I can see it. I'd love to share it, and I will be recording it that way. Now, if you don't have social media, just send me an email, and I will, you can totally enter still to win the free course at the end. I will be doing a random drawing at the end of all those that do finish the challenge, so I cannot wait to see. And I'm so glad that you all are here and participating in this year's challenge, and I can't wait to see you all tomorrow in day 2.